Hello, this is Riding with Ree. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. I am sharing my experience of having bought my first horse as an adult here in Surrey in the United Kingdom. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you out on a hack with my GoPro. We haven't done a GoPro hack in a while, and as has become tradition with my GoPro hacks, I'll be answering your questions as we ride along via a voiceover. Today, I want to take you on one of my new favourite hacks. It's a hack that I was only just shown. It has a lovely uphill canter, and then there's actually some jumps that we do in the woods. So I'm super excited to share that with you. And I've decided to give the question and answer format a little bit of a theme this time round. I want to talk about goals, progression, and rider mindset. There are a few themes that have come up in the questions that I've been getting this time round, and a few things that I've been thinking about in the last few weeks. And I'd love to capture that on that ride with us today. So grab yourself a cup of tea, start cleaning, whatever it is that you do in the background of these videos, and let's get going. Let's get on board. There were two questions that popped up on my Instagram Q&A sticker this month that really made me want to start with this theme of goals, progress, and rider mindset. So let's start with those and then unpack them a little bit. So the first question was this: how do you manage your emotions when things don't go to plan? I put a lot of pressure on myself. The second question was fairly similar: how to stop feeling bad after a riding lesson when you didn't do what you wanted to. So in both of these cases, we have a rider who has a bad feeling about an experience on the horse that they're carrying forward to the present day or potentially even future rides. Now, I've spoken quite a bit before about personal anxiety and stress that I feel, and I'm very much of the opinion that I want to understand why these things happen and how they happen and how we can stop them. And as I was ruminating on how I might answer these questions, I was reminded of a podcast I listened to recently. It's called The Ezra Klein Show, and it's on the New York Times. I'll link out the full podcast in the description. This particular episode was called That Anxiety You're Feeling, It's a Habit You Can Unlearn. And Ezra is joined by Judd Brewer, who is an Associate Professor of Psychiatry at Brown University and the Director of Research and Innovation at the Mindfulness Center. Essentially, what Judd says is that worrying and anxiety is caused by a behaviour pattern which looks a little bit like this. We have a trigger, a behaviour, and a reward. So the trigger might be a memory from the past, the behaviour is worrying about that memory, and the reward that our brain has created is that it feels better to worry than not to worry, and that unfortunately, sometimes when we worry, we end up coming with a solution. Because our brain loves causal connections, it makes the connection between worrying and coming up with a solution. And unfortunately, that means we create a behaviour loop where we're triggered by a memory, we worry about it, and then we end up rewarding our brains unnecessarily or unintentionally with that worry, which means we create a behaviour and pattern of reward that we're destined to repeat. Not only that, but Judd then goes on to say that there was actually a study done fairly recently that shows that emotions such as outrage or annoyance actually release dopamine in the way that happy memories do. So not only do we create these behaviour loops, but we also do them through bad memories, not just good ones. And this goes some way to explaining why we come back to these bad memories and bad experiences over and over and over again over good ones. So we know that this behaviour loop exists, and we know that we shouldn't be worrying. What I didn't know was quite how many of us actually spend our time doing this. Let me hand over to Judd and give you a clip from the podcast.
There was a couple of researchers at Harvard, I think it was Killingsworth and Gilbert, where they basically just ping people on their phone and asked them about, basically, what are you doing and how happy are you? And what they found was that on average, people's minds were wandering to the past or the future. Ready for this? 47% of waking life. I just want to let that settle in. Almost 50% of waking life, we are not present.
So a quick recap on what we've learnt. Number one, it is very easy for our brains to create bad behaviour patterns around worrying, And number two, studies have shown that when we're not present, we are less happy. And when we are not present, we are also more likely to be worrying. So how do we stop our behaviour cycles and be more present? I'm going to throw it back to the podcast now for their suggestion.
Broadly speaking, anything that is better than the previous behavior is something that our brain is going to prefer. So here I highlight curiosity. I think of it as a superpower because curiosity not only feels better than anxiety, but it also is intrinsically different. So if you inject a little bit of curiosity into that closed feeling of anxiety, we can actually start to move in the opposite direction simply by being curious in that moment. So if I'm feeling anxious, I can just feel into my body and ask myself, okay, where do I feel this anxiety most strongly? For a lot of folks, they feel it in their chest. Sometimes I'll feel it in my, if I'm stressed, I'll feel it in my shoulders or my jaw or even in my eyes kind of tensing. And then I can get curious and say, okay, where do I feel it more, on the left side or the right side of my body? And then my brain goes, well, I don't know. Let's explore. Is it more on the right side or the left side? The answer doesn't matter, but that little is that indication that we're starting to get curious as we explore our bodies. You're saying be curious about like this experience in this moment. Yes, because that's what's most relevant. Bringing curiosity into that feeling of anxiety helps us not avoid it. Avoidance doesn't actually work. It not only helps us not avoid it, but it helps us start to see that anxiety, well, for example, is just these felt physical sensations. So it's not this scary thing that we have to run away from. And in fact, we can start to develop our tolerance for this unpleasantness. And the curiosity can help us be with that to the point where we can realize, oh, it's actually, these physical sensations, while they might not be pleasant, are not something that I can't work with.
So how do we translate this to our horse riding and our equestrian life? I think that there is two ways we can do that. The first is that when these worries pop up, we get curious, we ask the questions, and we sit with that uncomfortable feeling in the moment. We do not push it down, push it away, and let it become a behaviour habit of a past memory of worrying. We sit in the present and we take it on. The other thing I think we can do of being present is do what's called ride the horse underneath you. This is something that my coach tells me. I know it comes up with other people's coaches, and it's all about riding the horse you have right there and then. So not holding on to an old behaviour that's happened previously, not thinking about what could happen in the future, just riding how it feels there and then. And that includes checking in with your own emotions, but also how your horse is feeling. And I think that is how we can stop ourselves from getting tied up with anxiety or worrying that something might happen, but just trying to be as present as possible in the moment. Okay, I really enjoyed this conversation on the rider mindset. Before we move on to goals and progress, I want to show you my little canter up the hill, which is a new one I found. Let's go. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Oh, good boy. Well done. Take a little breath. Oh, hard work. So the reason I get so excited about that path is that unlike a lot of the woodland around here, it is still soft and it doesn't get hard underfoot, which means it's great for a canter. It's also uphill, which is really good for building strength and stamina. And the reason I was laughing back there is that Woody was jumping the roots, which I just thought was very cute indeed. I thought they moved it. You ready? Good boy. Oh, good boy. Jump the other way, and we're going on our little, little trip. Okay. Oh, right under the ivy. Ouch. Okay. Jump the other way. Yeah. Boy. Good boy. So as we head down to this lovely woodland spot with these logs that we're going to jump over, I want to talk about goals and progression, and specifically about how to reframe that. I get asked quite often how to stay motivated, how to set goals with your horse, how to progress. And I think as humans, we are inherently inclined to think about progression as this upward trajectory of just up, up, up as a line. And actually, if you were to look into the history or career of any athlete, I guarantee if you look close enough, it looks a lot more like a squiggly line that goes up, down, up, down, up, down. You know, there are moments where they've lost, there are moments where they've had an injury, where they've lost motivation. And I think actually that is how progress is. And if we really think about it, we know that in our hearts. And I want to harken back to a conversation I was having with my coach the other day about this. So I was saying, you know, I've got these dates, I have a really busy week at work, and I'm not going to be able to ride, I don't think. What do you think I should do? Do you think I should get Woody booked in for schooling and hacking, which is a service provided on our yard? And she was like, well, you know, Rhiannon, you ride 6 days a week. Most weeks. It won't be such a bad thing for him to have that week off as well. You know, it's not bad. And it got me thinking, we have horses in disciplines like we have eventers who will event all event season and then have a few months off in the winter to just chill out and relax and rough off. We have hunters who will hunt all the hunt season, work hard, and then have the summer off. And we have our young horses who we might start and then turn away. And I was thinking there's a weird no man's land for these everyday horses who are doing a little bit of everything. And actually often if we are riding 6 days a week and we have an everyday horse, they don't often get that week off or 2 weeks off to reflect and think. And actually it's not such a bad thing. And it's really made me reflect on how these recovery periods are just as important as the competitions and the training and the prep. You know, if you were an athlete without your horse, your coach would probably say that your recovery and rest days are just as important as your training days. And I think actually reframing that a little bit to include our horses is really, really important. And it's just something I wanted to share with you. And just like that, with perfect timing, we have made it to our little turn where we're going to have a jump in the woods. So I'm going to stop talking and let you just enjoy it. This was honestly one of the funnest hacks I had. Might have to come round for that one. Missed it. Good boy! You're clever! Good boy! Was that fun? Oh. You're a clever boy! Good boy! Oh, there's one more baby one. You got the baby one? Yeah. You got the baby one? One, two. Are you loving it? Oh, take a walk. You're gonna get hot otherwise. You're a good boy. He is honestly such a cool little horse and obviously loves doing cross country. I can't wait to take him out cross country schooling properly. I think it's going to be so fun. So I want to close out this video with a little sing song. Okay, I had a really busy week when I went out on this hack, and that jumping just put me in such a good mood. So we had a little sing song along the road, and I should mention that this is a private road. There were no cars, and I wouldn't do this on a public road. But yeah, sorry for your ears, but also not sorry. I had a great time. We were driving a getaway car, we were flying, don't pretend it's such a mystery. Think about the times that you first met me, riding in a getaway car, and the beat of your heart. First to leave, the place where you first met me, in a getaway car. You'll never get far. Nothing good stops in a getaway car. Good boy. Well done, my darling. You're a good boy. Stand. So there you have it. I hope your ears are okay. Thank you so much for watching this week's video. If you enjoyed it, do give it a thumbs up, leave me any questions or comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next week, Fridays, 4 PM BST. See you there.